said, 70 is 70. She said, Judy, 70 is the new 50, and it's just a number. And I remember that.
Yeah.
And the people that I know who are older and spirited look like they were having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
She was known as the Queen of the Courthouse, earning a staggering $47 million a year, but behind her commanding presence on television were shadows she couldn't escape. Former staff members came forward with lawsuits, accusing her of age discrimination, claiming she routinely dismissed employees for being too old. Others alleged that her show deliberately avoided certain types of litigants to maintain a polished and specific image for the cameras. What appeared to be justice on screen was, according to accusations, actually fueled by bias and turmoil behind the scenes. Within just 5 years, more than 20 employees had left the production, fleeing what they described as chaos in the workplace. Then came 2020. She vanished from the spotlight as tabloids swirled with rumors, some going so far as to claim she was battling a brain disease. Refusing to let the lies stand, she fought back with a $5 million lawsuit. Yet when she returned in 2025 with a streaming comeback, what audiences discovered was far darker and more shocking than they had ever anticipated. The truth about her transformation unsettled everyone who thought they knew her story. Judith Susan Blume entered the world on October 21, 1942, in Brooklyn, New York, a city still rattled by the global war that consumed every corner of daily life. Her parents, Murray and Ethel Blume, embodied resilience. They were not the type to complain, even when hardship knocked at their door. Murray worked as a dentist while Ethel held an office job, and together they carved out a modest existence in a city that never paused, even when resources were stretched thin. Brooklyn at that time was overcrowded, bustling, and filled with families fighting to rebuild after the devastation of World War II. By 1946, more than 100,000 families in New York City were still waiting desperately for livable housing. Rent was painfully high, food supplies remained rationed, and in 1947, inflation spiked to an exhausting 14%. Murray's small dental practice struggled to keep the household afloat, forcing Ethel to become resourceful. She often stitched clothes from leftover fabric scraps just to clothe her family. By 1947, little Judy was only 5 years old, but already she was contributing, helping her mother with chores as air raid sirens echoed through Brooklyn each month, grim reminders that the world hadn't entirely escaped the shadow of war. Even earlier, when Judy was still an infant in 1943, her father had left home to serve in the military while the fighting still raged overseas. That left Ethel alone in Brooklyn, raising a toddler in the middle of blackout drills, food shortages, and constant uncertainty. Like millions of American families, they lived by ration stamps, 48 points per month for canned goods, stretching everything to survive. Even as a baby, Judy's world was one of tension, responsibility, and vigilance, shaping her long before she could understand what it meant. When Murray returned from war in 1945, Judy was 3 years old, but he was not the same man who had left. Across America, millions of veterans came back changed by the battlefield, and Murray was no exception. The Blume household, once quiet, now carried an air of unease. Divorce rates nationwide were skyrocketing, climbing nearly 50% by that time, as countless families buckled under the strain. Though Murray and Ethel remained together, the emotional strain lingered like an unshakable shadow. Even as a young child of 4, Judy was already stepping into leadership roles, organizing neighborhood games and directing other children with a natural authority. She didn't merely grow up fast, she was forced to. By 1955, when Judy was just 13, she stumbled upon a revelation that left a permanent mark on her view of family and morality. At what was supposed to be an ordinary family gathering, she overheard hushed conversations about her grandfather, Murray's father. To her astonishment, she learned he had been a bootlegger during the Great Depression. Back in 1932, as unemployment soared to 24%, he had resorted to smuggling liquor through Brooklyn, cleverly using dental supply routes to hide bottles beneath floorboards and evade suspicion. In 1934, during a massive police sweep that resulted in over 500 arrests, he narrowly avoided capture, and the family's stability nearly collapsed. To young Judy, the revelation was shocking. It didn't align with the straight-laced, law-abiding life she believed her family represented. But instead of rejecting the story, she became fascinated by it. She immersed herself in reading about criminals and famous trials, including Al Capone's 1931 conviction. That discovery sparked something deep inside her. She didn't just want to avoid wrongdoing, she wanted to understand it, to control it, and perhaps even to stop it altogether. In 1956, at the age of 14, Judy entered James Madison High School in Brooklyn, a massive institution that housed more than 3,000 students. Despite the overwhelming size of the school, Judy quickly distinguished herself, not through her grades, which lingered around a 2.5 GPA, but through her undeniable presence. She joined the debate club and wasted no time proving herself, racking up victory after victory. By 1959, she had already claimed 5 regional titles. Yet, her journey was not without resistance. That same year, she staged her own rebellion, skipping a dozen classes to protest outdated dress codes that prohibited girls from wearing pants. Even earlier, in 1957, she had organized a cafeteria walkout with 20 other students to protest the poor quality of the food. Teachers found her both puzzling and difficult to contain. She wasn't an honor roll student, yet she was tackling civil rights issues like segregation, subjects far ahead of her peers. At times, her boldness got her into trouble. She once faked excuse notes to skip gym, citing moral objections to the uniform, which landed her in detention. Meanwhile, gangs were rapidly multiplying across Brooklyn, with more than 100 in existence by 1958, but Judy refused to conform. She wouldn't join groups or follow trends she didn't believe in. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She was simply, unapologetically, Judy. By 1960, as the civil rights movement began reshaping America, Judy left Brooklyn for Washington, D.C., enrolling at American University with a major in government. At the time, campuses still sought to tightly control women. Strict curfews, bans on wearing pants in class, and constant policing of independence were the norm. But Judy was not deterred. She joined the Pi Sigma Alpha Honor Society, one of the few women to do so, and openly challenged male professors on issues of gender equality. Where others stayed quiet, she spoke out. In just 3 years, she graduated in 1963, a remarkable feat, especially in an era when most women were still expected to become secretaries, nurses, or housewives. Judy had no interest in being boxed into expectations. She wanted fairness, and she intended to fight for it. Returning to New York after graduation, Judy enrolled at New York Law School, where the obstacles grew even harsher. In 1963, women made up less than 5% of all law students nationwide, and the halls of academia dripped with hostility. Professors dismissed her, classmates sneered, and the message was clear: she didn't belong. But Judy refused to retreat. In 1964, the passage of the Civil Rights Act in Title VII outlawed sex-based discrimination in hiring, yet schools lagged behind in practice, leaving Judy to fend for herself. To support her education, she worked part-time as a legal secretary, and it was there she stumbled upon something that would change her perspective forever. She discovered evidence of corporate fraud, falsified financial documents buried in plain sight. While it never became public news, the discovery solidified her purpose. She didn't want to simply be another lawyer in a corporate office. She wanted her work to matter. By 1965, Judy had earned her JD and, impressively, passed the New York bar exam on her first attempt. Considering that pass rates hovered around 70% at the time and the legal field remained deeply hostile to women, it was an extraordinary achievement. Yet, despite her qualifications, law firms repeatedly rejected her. At least 5 firms turned her away, some without explanation. Undeterred, Judy threatened legal action under Title VII, years before it became a widely used weapon for justice. By 1972, Judy Schindlin, having already left a corporate law job 5 years earlier to raise her 2 children, Jamie and Adam, was presented with an unexpected opportunity. A law school friend told her about an opening in New York City's family court system, and Judy seized it. The choice would define her career. For the next 5 years, she was thrust into the center of one of the city's most broken institutions, handling thousands of cases involving child abuse, domestic violence, and juvenile crime. Some estimates suggest she oversaw as many as 20,000 cases, though that likely includes her later years on the bench. Even so, the early years were brutal. The 1970s were already turbulent, and Judy's blunt, no-nonsense approach clashed with judges who preferred to look the other way. Juvenile crime was on the rise. The 1974 Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act had been passed to keep minors out of adult prisons, but enforcement was inconsistent at best. Meanwhile, Judy's personal life was also shifting. She divorced Ronald Levy in 1976 after 12 years of marriage, and in 1977 she married Jerry Shindlin. Yet, her personal struggles never slowed her professional fight. She exposed fraudulent foster care records, pursued abusers with relentless determination, and pushed for reforms that successfully reduced repeat offenses. Her reputation as a fearless advocate grew stronger in 1975 when she took on a case most prosecutors wouldn't touch. A powerful businessman was accused of neglecting his child. Wealth and influence usually shielded men like him from accountability, but Judy pressed forward. She won the case, stripping the man of custody and ordering him to pay fines exceeding $10,000. The victory sent a shockwave, showing that the courts could hold even the wealthy accountable. But it also came at a cost. She began receiving anonymous threats, some warning her to back down. She didn't. The case not only set a precedent but also influenced reforms that reduced recidivism by 10%. For the child involved, it broke a destructive cycle and gave them a chance at safety. In 1978, her fight escalated when she was appointed to lead a task force on juvenile delinquency, one of the most aggressive reform initiatives the city had seen. Still working as a prosecutor, she now commanded a team with authority to expose systemic failures. The investigation quickly unearthed shocking corruption, including administrators profiting from youth detentions. Judy personally confronted one of the perpetrators, who was later convicted in 1980 and fined $50,000. 3 others were dismissed from their positions. In just 2 years, her work reduced recidivism rates by 15%. But exposing corruption painted a target on her back. She endured threats, betrayal from colleagues, and the strain of balancing her relentless career with her marriage to Jerry. Yet, she pushed forward. Her reforms aligned with national efforts led by Senator Birchbay, but locally, her crusades sparked friction. Still, her work spared hundreds of kids from being thrown into adult jails or abandoned in a failing system. Her relentless pursuit of justice nearly cost her career, but it also opened the door to her next chapter. In 1982, her efforts culminated in her appointment as a judge, a position that transformed her trajectory. That same year, Mayor Ed Koch appointed her to the Bronx Family Court, where her workload exploded overnight. She presided over more than 150 cases each week, cutting the court backlog by an impressive 40%. Her rulings were sharp, her tone uncompromising, and her style quickly earned her a reputation as both effective and intimidating. Defense attorneys called her a monster, but Judy didn't care. She had witnessed the ugliest sides of humanity, parents weaponizing their children in custody disputes, welfare fraud schemes, and chilling cases of abuse. One case that shook her deeply involved a mother who drilled her child under the arms, a horror that echoed the infamous McMartin preschool case of 1983, where false abuse accusations spiraled out of control. Yet unlike those who wavered, Judy cut through lies and delivered rulings that actually protected victims. Her courtroom became known for its efficiency and precision, swift but never careless. By 1986, her relentless work earned her a promotion to supervising judge in Manhattan's Family Court. That year, she once again made headlines, solidifying her reputation as a force who could not be ignored.